Hello everyone, it's Meg Ray, and welcome to another tutorial. In this one, I will actually be showing you how to build this massive statue that I had built originally for my survival world, and since I had the design already, I figured I might as well make this tutorial for it. And before we actually get into building it, here is just a quick look at how it looks in my actual world, so that you can get an idea of the sizing and how it might fit in your world. If you're brand new to this channel and you've never built one of my tutorials before, basically we're just going to do it in layers, and in this one we're just going to be building it from the ground up, and it's a lot easier to do it this way. So for example, this one we're actually going to be doing 41 layers, which results in our statue being 40.5 blocks tall, just because the top layer is slabs. But that's getting way ahead of myself. I think we should probably start from the beginning. I'm going to keep things very simple for you. I'm going to be, of course, doing mine in stone, but if you want to create a different colored version, I'm just going to give you 3 block options for the different pieces to the statue, and you can decide what colors you want to use for them. Just make sure whatever blocks you use, you do need a slab and a stair variant for at least the skin and the hair. So these are for the main statue, the figure itself. And if you remember the one I built in my survival world, I actually did give her a staff she's holding, and I'll show you how you can build a cool staff at the end. But for now, we're just focusing on the figure itself, so we don't need to think about that right now. Since the statue is so big, I decided to use stairs and slabs sparingly, so I only use it for the more detailed parts when we introduce the arms and the face and the hair, so the dress is just going to be completely out of blocks. It's up to you if you want to go back after the fact and kind of smooth some of those edges with stairs and slabs, but because, like I said, this is so big, you don't really need that extra detail necessarily. It's also optional to fill in the layers as you go. I'm just making them hollow to help you conserve blocks if you are building this in survival. I think when I built it though, I actually did fill them in, but that's just because I had a lot of extra stone handy, so it's really up to you and whatever's easiest. Once we get to layer 13, that will be the last layer where it's just blocks, and then we're actually going to start introducing a new block for the first arm that's going to be laying by her side. This is a new method for how I show my stairs too, where I actually show the direction the stair will be facing, and if it's just an outline, then it will be upside down, and if it's filled in, it'll just be an upright stair. I was trying to come up with a good way to do it, and I think that way works really well. At least it worked well for me when I was building this in survival myself. I don't normally get feedback on the actual guides themselves, other than maybe they're too complicated to count or something, but seriously, if you have any feedback you can give me on these and let me know if something's working or if something isn't working. I know I have some of my older tutorials where they're really outdated and my methods have greatly improved since then, but I'm always trying to improve it, so any feedback I can get, I appreciate. On this layer, layer 20, you can see we actually have some blocks directly on top of the previous layers to where you can't see it. The easiest way for me when adding new layers is to look wherever the previous layer was and start from there. So wherever you see the white, that would be the last layer you just built. It's easiest for me to start from one of those points and then base the rest of the layer off of that. Thankfully, these layers aren't that complicated like some of my other tutorials, but generally that is the way I go about doing it, and I think it's the easiest way. So far so good. Once we get to layer 24, we actually get to see some of the hair pieces being introduced. If you're this far into building this, you probably have a pretty good handle on how to build each of these layers. On layer 28, we start to introduce some slabs with those circles. So just like the stairs, the slabs work the same way, where if the circle is filled in, it will be a top slab, and if it is outlined, it will be a bottom slab. If you have trouble seeing where some of the bottom slabs go on these layers, it's okay. It's really just for smoothing out some of these shapes. Like I said before, I only really use slabs and stairs for the body parts and the hair, just to kind of give it more detail and to separate it from the very blocky dress. Not that you can't add slabs and stairs to that, remember, but I do think it really helps distinguish the difference between those two sections, especially if you're like me and your blocks look very similar. That was my thinking anyway as I was building this. We have less than 10 layers to go at this point, so I'm just gonna go ahead and shut up and let you finish building this. Chances are you're not even listening to me and you're just scrubbing through my video, which is totally fine. That's exactly why I make them like this. But once we get all of these layers built out, then I will show you how we can add a staff or something for her to hold in her hand. On the very final layer, we're just going to smooth off the top with some slabs, and now we can give her something to be holding in her hand. Underneath her hand, you should have these two stair blocks making this corner. Right on that corner is where we're going to start our staff. Just stack 5 blocks below that, and then we're going to just keep stacking 5 blocks down diagonally from that point. You could also change the lengths of these if you wanted the staff to be at a different angle. This is just the angle that I chose. For the top of the staff, it can be any pattern you want, but we're going to start it right in the middle of all of these stairs. And I'm going to start by building a pillar of blocks about the same length that I used for the bottom of the staff, just to keep the angle consistent. And then I'm just building this almost rounded shape, not quite, but almost, with a gemstone of sorts in the center. I'm basically just trying to keep that diagonal shape going, so I'm making sure whatever I do, it's kind of sticking diagonally in the direction that she's facing, and it's also just mirrored on either side. So whatever details I put on one side, I just make sure I do it on the other. Really, it's up to you however you want to design this, but if you want to get a closer look at how I'm doing it, it's not exactly the same one I used in my survival world either, it's just me kind of making something up on the go. Well, it looks like we've reached the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this design. I had a lot of fun designing it for my survival world, and I'm so glad I get to share it with you now, so you can add it to yours. I just had to do this quick shot with shaders because I think they look so amazing, and I have another version shown here with more realistic colors. Why I didn't do the tutorial in those colors, I don't even know, don't ask, but either option looks just as good, I think. Most of you have probably checked out by now, but if you did want to check out some of my other tutorials, feel free to do so. But that is all I have for this one, so goodbye.